Thank you for tuning in for another tale from the Blue Wizard, and welcome, good folk. This YouTube novel is for entertainment purposes, so do not make life decisions based on what you hear in this story. Fiction is a wonderful vessel of truth, but take only what resonates and leave the rest for someone else or another time. Today's episode is Chapter 6, Into the Field. The company on the ship had been getting smaller and smaller, Marshall recalled, as they followed the coast south and sometimes west, leaving a few passengers at each port they called at. When it was their turn to disembark, there were no other passengers left, only crew. The captain sent one sailor with each Mr. Blue, taking them to separate safe houses where they would be prepared for the journey east. Mr. White announced he had important business to attend to and would return when it was time to depart. The safe house where Marshall was readied for his mission was owned by a coastal baron, but of a people who had once lived far enough east to have knowledge of the kingdoms there and the highborn ways, while he lived in modest conditions and was able to get to know local merchants who traded to the east. But what people are really interested in hearing about begins with Mr. Blue and Mr. Blue meeting back up with Mr. White to head east. Being the beginning of a great adventure that would land them on more than one occasion in a dungeon and have them cross paths with a dragon, the three wizardly-looking men were obligated by convention and tradition to meet up at a local pub near the road that would take them out east. Marshall said he could hear the chatter at several of the tables they passed on their way to the alcove near the back, being related to recent goblin raids to the north. Mr. White was at the table already. He waited until they were seated and advised the two Mr. Blues that he had done some preliminary scouting south, but would have to return there after his probe to the east with them. As you may recall, Mr. White was from fabrication. It was at this time he presented each of them with a staff. These will serve as a symbol of your authority and will focus your inherent energies when needed, White said. Rely on your words and this as a symbol of the board's authority, but resort to using your energy to impose your will only in need, sparingly and wisely. Manny's staff was slightly shorter than him at precisely 6 feet, smooth and straight, the bottom and top 2 inches shining with silver caps. Marshall was given a staff of bleached driftwood, slightly shorter than Marshall's 6 feet of height. This staff gradually thickened toward the top, where there was an extraordinarily large white pearl clenched in a gnarl. Both Marshall and Manny had, over the years, already settled into the habit of wearing robes of blue and sturdy boots with thick soles. Marshall had also taken to wearing a conical hat with a wide brim, also blue, as protection from overexposure to the sun. Mr. White and Manny, however, went bareheaded most of the time, although if the sun was particularly hot during their travels, Manny would wrap his head in a turban of deep blue, while a servant would ride alongside Mr. White to hold shade makers for their leader. Leaving the coastal lands, rolling low hills gave way to flat, mostly barren lands that would have been impossible to travel were it not for the walled cities. As travel between the cities typically took days and sometimes weeks, they spent ample time in each city, gathering information and strength before setting out for the next city to the east. But when they set out on that road east toward the city of Babilla, they were unprepared for what they would find at that city, then known as the Gate of the Gods. Thank you for visiting for another tale from the Blue Wizard. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this content.